Hey, it's Dave from cheapwinefinder.com. Today, another wine review that goes along with the written review on the cheapwinefinder.com website, which we've been doing for going on 12 years and have a couple of thousand reviews on there. We've been busy little bees. And today it's a Chardonnay, a $7.99 Chardonnay from the Edna Valley. $79.99 at Trader Joe's, and it's called the Meringue Chardonnay, Edna Valley Chardonnay 2018. Edna Valley, if you do not know, is south of Paso Robles in the Central Coast AVA, along the coast, and it is a cool area. It's really great for growing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, a little richer Chardonnay because it's not that much farther north than Los Angeles, but it is coastal, and it does get cool breezes, so you get maybe a little richer, maybe riper, but still in the proper climate range. Some of the really famous Pinot Noir Chardonnay growing areas get kind of cool all the time and never really warm up. And Central Coast a little bit different, but you get a little richer, and that's not a bad thing. And this is a single AVA Chardonnay, $7.99 Meringue. I don't know who made it. This is Meringue Wine Company, which is, when they contract wine, they kind of make up a name for the wine. You're not supposed to know really, or, because it comes in cheaper, the grapes might come from this vineyard or this winery. And, a lot of wineries have contract sections of their winery. They would make wines for, their own wines, and then they'll make wine for somebody else. You can't really go from that because it's not the same as their own wines. They're making it for somebody else, but you get their know-how. And like I said, this is a Chardonnay, and from Edna Valley, and it's pretty good for $7.99. I was thinking when I was drinking it that 5 years ago, you wouldn't get a Chardonnay for sub $10 this complex. It's got malolactic and lees, and it's got some sort of oak aging. How, I don't know what it is, which way, or there's barrel, is there some other way to get oak in there? But it's kind of a complex Chardonnay, which is kind of nice, and that's kind of what California Chardonnay is about. But it's got rounded flavors and a wide range of flavors, and it's got some cream to it. It's got vanilla. It's got pineapple and grapefruit and lemon and apple, and it's pretty good. And let me take a sip. There we go. I used to go to these tastings at a liquor store. It was a big tasting. It would have maybe 20 stations with, 3-4 wines each station. And one thing I would hear all the time is somebody would say, "I don't like Chardonnay." And I was like, no, you don't get it. The Chardonnay isn't one thing. Every single Chardonnay is different. There's all sorts of different things you do to it. Like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Grigio, they make those as simply as possible, especially in the lower price range. And that's great because it's bright, they're fruity or citrusy. They got great noses. They're light and easy to drink, and that does those grapes fine. But Chardonnay, even in the same price range as those, tends to be more complex. Malolactic fermentation is something they do in red wine all the time and happens in Chardonnay, and that changes they actually put bacteria into the juice, and it changes. I think it's the mallow acid to lactic acid. So you get a rounded rather than a tart. So a lot more fruit than citrus, more milky, so you can get kind of creamy sometimes. And when they make one, they don't have to do the whole thing. I mean, they do these wines sometimes in lots, other Chardonnays, and maybe 20% has malolactic, or maybe 80% has mal. Doesn't matter. They can do an 8% they want. Then they do some sort of oak aging. They can either do barrels and, new barrels or used barrels, because you can use, a barrel will impart oak influence to wood for maybe 3 or 4 fills. With a shorter period of time, a lot of things, I think you get more use out of oak, because some of these wines are, in the $10 range are in oak for 4 months or 6 months, where It used to be a year and a half, so it's a shorter length of time. You can use them more, but just the same, if you're using barrels, is it used? Is it, a used barrel gives off less. If you're putting staves in that have been toasted into a vat, that gets flavor in there too, which is fine. You're not really, this is drinking now wines. It doesn't really matter how the oak gets there. You're not really paying for the oak. So if they get it in there and it gives you the flavors you like, that's a good thing. And they're really good at it now. So, and then there's Anlise, and Anlise is where they keep the dead yeast from the fermentation and maybe bits and pieces of whatever left over from the grapes in the vat as it ages. And if you stir it, it starts to get creamy. I mean, you can like really stir the heck out of it, or you can stir it a little, but you get this creaminess to it. And plus it gives a nutty, salty flavor to it and gives it structure and adds a little bit of oomph to the wine. But so there's different things you can do in different proportions. And then another thing, this is, is the grape selection. I didn't get to the grape selection. A lot of times you see California label. This one's Edna Valley. This is from a very small section of Central Coast. But when you see Chardonnay that says California, it might be some grapes from coastal Monterey, and then some other grapes from a valley in Lodi, which is inland, and then maybe some from a hillside in Mendocino. Each grape's going to be different, but they're still value price wines, and they put that together with all the different percentages of malolactic and oak and everything. And there's an infinite number of percentage of things you can do that's still Chardonnay, but everybody's got their own little recipe. So when you go to wine tasting, don't say, I don't like Chardonnay, because everyone's different. So, that's kind of like, I can't yell at people there. I can do it here. So Chardonnay, even this little $7.99 Chardonnay, and, since Trader Joe's pays up front, they have, aggressive pricing in the store. The wine brings people in. They don't have all the distribution costs. They have distribution costs. You can't get rid of the distribution, but they don't have, the distributor doesn't have people out in the street. Most distributors have really talented, well-educated salespeople out selling their wines. You don't need that at Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's does the marketing and all that. And that cuts a big chunk out of things. So this isn't really, it's $7.99. It's probably, if it was selling in a store, would be several bucks more, maybe 10, 11, 12. It's hard to say one way or the other, because they're, I don't know where the grapes come from. There's a lot of variables. So this, when you get a $7.99 Trader Joe's wine, sometimes it is actually a $7.99 wine, and sometimes it's more, and you don't really know because they don't tell you. But with this, with all that's going on with the malolactic, the Anlise, and whatever oak aging is in there, there is a lot going on. Grapes from a very small area. Usually the smaller the area, the higher the price gets, And Edna Valley is a good place for Chardonnay, but it's still a cheap wine. If you hadn't had Edna Valley Chardonnay, this is a great way to check it out. Like I said, it is a richer style, and there's a ton of flavors going on. And I'm going to take another sip, and I'm almost done here. It's got a good mouthfeel. I don't think it's full malolactic fermentation, because there is some tart things still going on and some round things. So it might be one of those where a percentage of it went through malolactic fermentation, and maybe it didn't. And then there's that salty thing going on with Anlise, but they took some time to make this wine. This is not just a throwaway. It tastes good. And there you go. It's, 5 years ago, you wouldn't get a Chardonnay for $7.99 that's this complicated and this tasty. And that's a good wine. I recommend it. You can't beat the price. And that's it for me. We got other things coming up. I think the 14th, we got Valentine's Day. And I might do some Prosecco and maybe some sweet wines or something to meet that, because it's coming up pretty quick. And we'll work on that. And adios for now. Keep it cheap. And I'll be talking to everybody in a bit. Bye-bye.